Okay, here it is. What's our timestamp here?
Like 56 minutes and something.
No, it's a whole hour into it. Wow, we recorded a lot without recording anything. This
And you were
reminds
just
me of the
watching
old show.
us. Yeah, you were just watching us wave around and gesticulate wildly. And,
Oh,
man. Unless there are those of you who were actually reading our lips, I know there's probably at least...
Well, Mike was here earlier.
Yeah.
And he didn't say anything. He could have texted you.
Yeah, well, that I suppose I could look at my phone and see if I was getting a text, but I don't think I was. I don't think anybody was texting me. You might check the Comics Online page.
Yeah.
And see how that was. So anyway, for those of you that were attempting to listen and couldn't hear, we were talking about the Black Panther film. And we were talking, we're hitting the major talking points without trying to be, too spoilery. We were trying to not drop that on you. At least I was, and I was trying to prevent Kevin from doing the same. So we mentioned M'Baku the Man-Ape. Now, M'Baku the Man-Ape was presented as a rival to T'Challa, not necessarily being villainous. M'Baku the Man-Ape was also kind of given a facelift, if you will, the comic incarnation of the character, so that he didn't come off as a racial stereotype. And I feel that they were very successful with that. We were praising other members of the cast, specifically Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger, for his very credible, very canny, and even sympathetic and understandable villain, and how he brought a sense of grounding to his character, and that grounding, certainly permeated. We were praising Angela Bassett because, as Kevin pointed out earlier, what is she in where she isn't good? Come on, it's almost boring to talk about. Yeah. Angela Bassett does a good performance. Yawn.
Yeah, she's amazing. And I most recently loved her in, as I said, American Horror Story, and this, she steals every scene except for those scenes with Shuri.
Yeah.
Which, oh my God, I love that character, and I just want to see Black Panther 2 so we can have more Shuri.
If there was one thing, and now I didn't say this earlier, but you did kind of bring it back to my mind. If there was one thing, it's not even a criticism on my part per se. I kind of feel like Shuri took all of the scientific exposition, and while T'Challa certainly demonstrates that he's intelligent and he understands what she's saying, she does all the sciencey stuff. But I feel like it's important to say that Shuri is brilliant, but also T'Challa is equally brilliant. T'Challa has that Tony Stark level of engineering, ingenuity and technological wherewithal. So Shuri kind of takes that from T'Challa in this film. Not negatively so, because T'Challa certainly has so much more going on.
He's got a bit on his plate.
Well, yeah.
Ruling the most advanced country in the world in the Marvel Universe.
Well, such that we can see here now. Now, let me say that Wakanda is existing in the cinematic universe vacuum, because we don't have Atlantis, we don't have Latveria, we don't have.
I'm going to assume Latveria is probably not technologically advanced. Like Castle Doom, maybe. But Latveria, no.
Well, Doom kind of spread that technological wherewithal out. Because bear in mind that from Castle Doom, he has to be able to protect the borders of the country from, at the time, the Soviet Union. I mean, bear in mind, Latveria is surrounded by enemies. So you have to be able to protect the borders of the entire country, the farthest borders, not just the central, the capital itself.
Okay.
So some of that technological, it's like we were talking about the rustic yet advanced marketplace. Latveria would have to be similar, where you're going to be rustic, but at the same time have some, now the average citizen isn't walking around with a blaster strapped to their hip. So there's a lot of technology that you won't see disseminated.
I feel like that in Latveria, your average citizen is happy that they're well fed, because that's how Doom likes it, but they're kept technologically kind of in the olden times, if you will, whereas in Wakanda everybody has access to whatever technology they want. Now, a lot of these people are acting as, it's this cross section between, people with very advanced, futuristic advanced things, and yet, living a very agrarian lifestyle often.
Well, I think the balance there in Wakanda is that the citizenry is happy, that these things are given unto them or made available to them, but they can also maintain their traditions. Now, in Latveria, I imagine that it's much more enforced. Doom demands that his populace be happy. Finger quotes on that one. It certainly bothers Doom to no small end when any of his populace is threatened by outside forces. However, Doom's word is law, so within the context of his own country, you do what Doom says. I kind of feel like, though, education would be offered to the people so that Doom could recruit from out of them. Those technicians in his castle come from somewhere. I can't imagine that Doom would waste time having to give somebody more than a 12th grade education. He would much rather that these people already have an engineering degree. It was like, all right, you're the top 2% of your graduating class. You come to Castle Doom and work for me because I said so. And that's how that would work. That's where these guys like Hauptmann, you remember Doom's assistant Hauptmann, that's where those guys would come from.
Sure.
So the people are probably happy to maintain, their Balkan mountain traditions, their traditional dress, probably traditional dances, etc. I noticed, though, that Latveria does not mistreat gypsies, and of course, Doom's own mother came from a gypsy background. So gypsies move around the borders, and they're apparently comfortable doing so. In any event, that takes us completely out of my earlier conversation. But shooting through the bullet points of our earlier casting, the part where unfortunately you might have missed out on that, we apologize.
Unless you can read our lips.
Yeah, unless you can read our lips. So we also talked about, where I talked a little bit about action sequences. I was pointing out that the Black Panther, as a character, as a comic character, has always been on that equal level of, say, Daredevil, Captain America, Iron Fist, Spider-Man, characters like that. There are some very well choreographed action sequences. The fight scenes in this are, I thought, just as good as the fight scenes in Captain America: Winter Soldier. I won't compare to other Marvel movies, like, say, The Avengers, Age of Ultron, Guardians of the Galaxy, certainly, where the power levels of the characters and the other powers involved become blended into the fight scenes. But in Winter Soldier, it's pretty much, down and dirty combat. It's
extra strong and extra skilled, but down and dirty combat.
Yeah, and and skill matters more than powers in these examples.
Yeah.
How would you compare the Black Panther fights to, say, the Daredevil, Netflix's Daredevil?
Well, Daredevil is, a less powerful dude, right? He's not at peak human, as we like to say, in the oh hot move sort of thing. But skill level, the choreography in Daredevil, the fight choreography in Daredevil is fantastic. I would compare this choreography and cinematography, because the shooting and editing matters a lot as well. I would say it's stylistically different than Daredevil. Daredevil is amazing. I wish that Iron Fist had been as much amazing as Daredevil had been, but it was not. But I would compare it to, do you remember, well, of course you do, Captain America versus Batroc on the battleship or whatever.
Yes.
Or not, it wasn't a battleship, but it was the
Lemurian Star.
Lemurian Star. Where we were just wowed by all of that, with Captain America and with Black Widow, all of that whole.
Even though Batroc loses that fight, he comes off as capable. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Like, there's a moment where this fight could go either way.
Yeah.
And then Cap gets the upper hand, but you don't feel like Batroc was punked.
Yeah.
You know, it not like some of his comic appearances. You're like, man, Batroc is just no kind of a threat to Captain America at all. And it really has taken years to get the comic character to the level of where you respect his skill set. Well, George St. Pierre did an amazing job with Batroc.
Oh yeah, that was fantastic. Well, yeah, and like you say, in the comics, you know, he will get slapped around a lot. You know, I always put him and La Tarantula in the same boat, where it's just like they're practically comic relief, where it's like, you know, they're super badass fighters until Spider-Man shows up, until Cap shows up, and then they're going to be made look, you know, to look foolish.
Well, you know, the original Tarantula, though, you know, with his spiked boots and all, he was actually a threat to Spider-Man until such times he was turned into a giant tarantula monster.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and that was the death of the original Tarantula. And
I'm going to choose to continue to forget about that, because that was a dumb idea.
What, turning him into a monster that gets killed?
Yes. Because, you know, at least he would come in and, you know, just be a street-level... you know, thief or, you know, burglar or whatever.
There was never... I don't believe that the writer at the time had any intention of leaving him as a tarantula monster as a regular villain. I think that was the consequences of his latest endeavor that transformed him, and uncomfortably so, and then we saw the tragic death of the tarantula. We also had the Will-O-the-Wisp in that story. I don't know if you remember Will-O-the-Wisp, but I certainly do.
I remember.
I kind of like that guy.
With the long blonde hair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Long flowing hair. He looked so Californian.
It's like gray and
it was like a greenish outfit
maroon
with a green one piece with a yellow kind of starburst emblem in the middle. And when he would fly, he would transform and he would be kind of orangish. You know, he had that light corona thing going on. And then the ability to control his density. You know, to be able to phase through things or to be ultra hard. It was kind of like the Vision. A lesser powered version of the Vision in that regard.
All right.
But in any event, yeah, but Tarantula, you know, in his human form, the original Tarantula, he was definitely credible. I feel like more so than Batroc, there are a lot of Batroc appearances where he just doesn't come off very well. In any event, the choreography in Black Panther, you know, the fight scenes were done so very well. Just eye-poppingly. It lacks, I think, some of the gritty feel of Daredevil, and maybe that's just the difference in how these two things were shot. Daredevil certainly was shot with the intention of being seen on the small screen. Daredevil was not shot in IMAX. It was not shot with the preparation to be done in 3D. And so you get a difference in quality in the finished product of that. You know, I say this as somebody who's watched a lot of martial art movies, a lot of martial art television shows, and I have compared just, I can't even begin to describe the sheer number of these things that I have watched. And, you know, whether we're talking about Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon, or whether we're talking about Daniel Bernard in Mortal Kombat Conquest, or whether we're talking about the Master Killer film series, or... You know, what was that one? Oh my goodness, I just had it. Wing Chun with Michelle Yeoh. You know, whether we're talking Cynthia Rothrock movies, et cetera, and then like if you've ever seen any of your cinematic martial art heroes like Sammo Hung, going from film to a television series like Martial Law, and then you just feel like, wow, that's really off. There is a difference in shooting a film on film, shooting a film for television, shooting for the big screen, shooting for the small screen. And that comes off as you know, like I said, you know, the production value changes. All right. So in any event, Black Panther has, you know, mad chops on that regard. And
you were saying that it was in your top 5 of the 18 Marvel Cinematic Universe. Films.
Yeah, it has a story, you know, a compelling story beginning to end, not unlike Winter Soldier. It has interesting, engaging fights, again, not unlike Winter Soldier. It doesn't introduce the Black Panther. Civil War already did that, but it does introduce the larger world of the Black Panther.
Yeah. Much
like Doctor Strange introduced us to the mysticism. And it didn't try to explain the magic as super advanced technology. Magic is magic. And we got into the spiritual realm, and we saw Dormammu, and Dormammu did not look like a giant sock puppet. And I was appreciative of that. I was a little bit afraid on the idea that we're going to introduce, this epic level menace. I mean, Dormammu is a powerhouse, maybe not on the level of Galactus, but he does rule the Dark Dimension, so he is a powerhouse.
Yeah.
And after in the Green Lantern film, Parallax, Smoky Cloud Parallax, in Rise of the Silver Surfer, Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer, Smoky Cloud Galactus, and I was just afraid that Dormammu might turn into another Smoky Cloud or worse, fiery sock puppet. Neither of which happened. I was actually happy with the visual appearance of Dormammu. He's not in the film that much. The little bit that we had was certainly good enough. Baron Mordo. Actually, I don't think they called him Baron, but Mordo was also a compelling villain, and certainly we're going to see more of him from Doctor Strange as that. So Black Panther introduces, again, the world of Wakanda, the Dora Milaje, the technological advancements of the country, vibranium, the use of vibranium. We got some good use out of Claw here. We get to see, much as we did with Spider-Man Homecoming, the idea that there is a black market for illegal technology. Maybe somebody stole something off the streets after the Chitauri battle, or from the crash of the helicarriers at the Triskelion, and so on and so on.
Here's a picture of Dormammu. He's the ruler of the Dark Dimension.
You don't get a sense of scale from that, but he certainly in the Doctor Strange film was tremendous. Oh, very, very funny. So in any event, there's a black market. And Claw was very much a part of that black market. Now, we saw some of that in Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
And we see how Claw does business.
And we saw that in Iron Man 2, for that matter.
Well, what was really interesting is Claw's quirky sense of humor. When he's being confronted by Wanda and Pietro in Age of Ultron, and he's sitting there and he offers them a piece of candy, and he says, it's like, nothing scares me except cuttlefish. And then he goes into this thing about cuttlefish. He was like, I watched a documentary once. It was terrifying. He's like, but, it's like, unless you're going to make me see a giant cuttlefish, he's like, I know that you're not in charge, and I only talk to the person in charge. Or the man in charge, he says. And then Ultron comes in and stomps on his chest, says, let's talk business. Like, oh, okay, now I'm intimidated. The 8-foot-tall robot is standing in front of my face here. But Claw had that kind of irreverent, quirky humor, and you see it again in Black Panther. And the character is very consistent from one film to the next. And Andy Serkis, whether he is a motion caption character in some other film, like Lord of the Rings, where he plays Gollum, or whether you actually get to see him be him, and he's got, facial tics, and he's got, kind of, a posture, etc. He's got signature things, but he is a very good character actor, and he carries that role. I won't tell you what happens to Claw. But I will tell you this.
That he does have an arm blaster.
There is an arm blaster. It does not look like the classic comic one, the one that fits over his hand. Yeah. Which I believe that blaster originally was fitting over his actually working hand when he had a working hand.
Oh, I didn't realize
and
that.
And then when T'Challa smashed it or blew it up, he lost the use of his hand, and then the sound blaster became a true prosthetic. And then he converts into a sound creature, and that blaster is necessary to maintain the integrity of the sound body. I realize that doesn't actually sound like it makes a lot of scientific plausible sense. The Claw becomes a creature composed entirely of sound.
Solidified sound,
Solidified sound.
Yeah, that sounds totally reasonable, right?
Yeah, what exactly does that mean? I mean, and I could go into some technobabble about electromagnetic fields that are specifically shaped like a human body that maintain this weird sort of oscillating energy.
And somehow it reflects light that to where it looks like a solid object.
Yeah, that there's some, that perhaps the precise frequency of the electromagnetic field interacts with light in such a way as to make Claw appear to be a red-skinned entity. In any event, we don't get that far in this film. But Claw does have a working sound blaster on his hand. It's really kind of cool. So yeah, there's a lot that goes on with the Black Panther, and honestly, unless I'm nitpicking, I can't really find a lot of anything to complain about or criticize negatively. I'm like, I would myself give this film, I've got to say, a mark of at least 95%. I give it 5% room for maybe some improvement, but that's just me being nitpicky. Nitpicking little details. I'm like, does the costume need to be nanobites? Okay, you know what? It's super scientifically advanced. Go ahead and use the nanites. I will admit to myself, it's not a complaint even worth making.
That's funny, because that's like, that's the only thing that seemed just a little bit cheesy. It's like Flash's costume bursting from his ring. Do we need that? It's the same thing. Oh, Black Panther's costume comes from his necklace. Do we need that? Right. No, but okay, fine, whatever.
Now, at least in the case of the Flash, I let it go for the Flash because that's almost always been how that costume has worked. Barry comes up with a chemical that he treats his costume with so that he can compress it into the ring at super speed, and when the costume is exposed to air, it expands to full size, and then he super speeds into it. That's how that's always been done. And I let it go. I let it go. The Panther's costume, I feel like, has more often than not been, kind of a traditional cloth. We've certainly seen that costume get ripped up, and then we started doing the vibranium weave, and we simply accepted it. I don't know at any point that I ever said, gee, why didn't he just do that all along? Whatever. Again, I'm, at this point, straining for things to make any kind of criticism about. Again, the movie just does everything so well, so right. We have major characters and minor characters, and the minor characters are well acted. They're well constructed.
They're so good. Like I was saying before, when we couldn't be heard, I was talking about how amazing Danai Gurira from The Walking Dead was. Just an amazing captain of the Dora Milaje.
Yeah, the general.
The general.
Yeah, I mean, she's it made me think that I don't know if the director actually borrowed from the Wonder Woman film, from what we saw of the Amazons there.
What do you mean?
Well, the way that they treated the female contingent of, but obviously Wakanda has an integrated military. There are women that specific guard the Dora Milaje, but obviously it's okay for women to train to fight, to train to be warriors. I would imagine that the larger segment of their army might also be, integrated, on a gender level.
It looked like that was the case. I mean, if you look at Forrest Whitaker's rhino troops or whatever they were called.
Right. I mean, man, the armored rhinos. Wow, that I want one of those things. I don't know. For our fans who don't know, I have some fascination with rhinoceroses. I think they're beautiful in their ungainly nature.
But rhinos wearing armor? Preposterouses.
That was amazement. So again, I like the combination of high technology and kind of more traditional stuff.
I was gonna make a joke about adamantium weave because she wore a hairpiece when they went to the town. Never mind.
Yeah, the casino scene.
Casino scene.
You do get when they go into the casino.
Much better than that Star Wars casino scene. Just saying.
We're not going to criticize Star Wars right now. We'll save that for another time.
I'm just saying, but if you're like, all right, here's two Disney things, Black Panther wins.
Yeah, well, the scene wasn't as long, certainly, and did not need to introduce a character like DJ. But hey, enough of that.
Whatever.
You negative Nelly.
I mean, it's fine. I mean, I'm glad I watched the Star Wars movie, and I'm glad they made it, and thanks to everybody who did it. But it was all right.
This guy.
I mean, but that Black Panther, I can't wait for that to come out on Blu-ray. Well, I'm probably not going to buy the Blu-ray, but I'll get it on Amazon, and I'm just going to go and watch it, and watch it some more because it's so good.
Unlike Kevin, I am going to get the Blu-ray, and I'm actually going to watch all of the special features. I'm going to watch the making of.
Oh, they come on. They when you get it on Amazon now, they come, and I don't want to have an extra piece of plastic.
Oh, I absolutely, I get all that.
I have too much stuff, Troy. Why don't you just go through my comics and just take half of them and just buy them from me?
All right. Kevin's going to keep the podcast going here. I have to go into this other room here for a couple, 2-3 hours.
Yeah. Make sure you sort the rest of them. Oh, sorry. I forgot your coffee over there.
I didn't forget.
So, anyway, I loved it. Like I say, Shuri was just delightful, and I want to see more of her. Want to see more of Denai. Want to see more of Angela Bassett's character, the Mama, whatever her name was. I don't know what the Queen.
Ramonda?
The Queen Mother.
Something. I don't even know exactly how to say this, so let me just apologize in advance. Something that I liked about this film. Now, certainly, it had a very Afrocentric cast, which only makes perfect sense for where the country is based.
Realsies.
But I liked how we didn't necessarily depict that all of the white people are terrible people. And I go back to Everett Ross on this one.
Yeah.
He might be naive about Wakanda. Certainly he believes that because that is what they wanted him to believe. Wakanda's a third world country, but we don't accept aid. We're not asking for any help. We'll take care of ourselves. We want to get along with everybody. And this is the lie that the outside world believes, and Ross didn't have any intelligence to the contrary on that. The more that Ross learned, the more that his eyes were opened, he cottoned on. But he doesn't come off. Yeah, he doesn't come off like the kind of guy who's like, the Wakandans have all this stuff. I'm going to steal it from them. He doesn't turn into a jerkwad.
Thank goodness.
It's like the film shows us that there are characters on both sides of the protagonist, antagonist, and they may be African, they may be African American, they may be very Caucasian. It doesn't matter. You can have good black people and bad black people, good white people and bad white people, and so on and so on. It doesn't matter what your ethnicity. The line, the divides of good and evil, and the ambiguity between them. And certainly they touch on that. With T'Challa's communing with the spirit of his father. His father talks about the truth he chose to omit. And the Panther, T'Challa going, look, I can't come and join you here in peace and bliss and in the land of the dead. I have to go back and fix the mess that you made. We did a terrible, you did a terrible thing, a horrible mistake was made, and I have to make it right. I have to do that. And so he goes back, and even as he's beating Killmonger, when he is eventually beating Killmonger, he's like, look, it doesn't have to be like this. Not in those precise words, but that's kind of the feeling you come away with. He's like, the Panther needs to win, but at the same time, he'd want to turn this victory into something else. I'm not just, going to beat you and, walk away. No, walking away from you is what caused this in the first place. I have to fix this. I have to make this right. I have to make this better. And I, again, on many levels with all the characters, I'm very appreciative of that. It's fantastic.
I was really happy about it. And like you started to say about M'Baku, in the comics, or, just if you were just to read his Ohatmu entry or something like that, just a stat sheet, he sounds like an ugly racist stereotype, right? M'Baku, the man-ape, and he's special because he wears the pelt of the sacred white ape or whatever. And you're like, that sounds even worse. This just gets worse and worse.
Yeah, it's kind of...
He's special because he's the white one? Really? And he's a man-ape. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, the cult of the white gorilla, as opposed to the cult of the Black Panther. Of all of the panthers, the leopards in Africa, you have to pick the black one. Right. All right, whatever. The Black Panther actually...
But it just sounds creepy, right? but you see this character and you're like, okay, he's a rival, but he I think what I took away from it in the end, and particularly in our second meeting with him in the movie, you're like, oh, this guy is honorable.
Yeah, he does
he's
have
very serious about honor, and also, you know, he tends to be, you know, kind as well when the Queen Mother and Shuri and somebody else, you know, go and see him, maybe Everett Ross, I forget who were there.
Yeah. I like that one line when he tells Ross, he goes, one more word and, you know, my children will eat you. He's like, I'm just joking. We're vegetarian. And then he laughs. You know, it's like, oh, it's a great big joke. Yeah, and I laughed. I couldn't help myself. I laughed out loud.
Yeah. It was, but
apologies to other people in the theater.
He goes and you know, and does right by these people, and you're like, oh, there's a rivalry, but he's not an asshole.
Right.
And, you know, and that, you know, that makes all the difference, you know, and I feel like, you know, even, you know, when one of the characters, without, you know, I don't want to get too spoiler, one of the characters kind of makes a bad decision late in the film, by siding with Killmonger, I feel like that character is not going to, you know, be killed over this. It was just a bad decision. You know, in the
there will have to be some consequences, but you know, we'll certainly explore those as we go further.
And I feel like, you know, in the end, you know, obviously, come on, this is a movie, so Killmonger loses, Black Panther wins, and you know, I kind of feel like Killmonger would not be, you know, killed for you know, whatever sort of, you know, going against the king type of thing. Anyway, it was a fantastic movie. I feel like, so my question to the universe of the Facebooks was...
And the YouTubes.
And the YouTubes. Oh, who's talking to us? Mike Smith. I really like the movie. Just got back from my second viewing. I'll be seeing it again this weekend once I get home. Hi, Mike. Mike, you weren't here earlier, and we were silent. Muhammad Ali returned from the grave and told us that we didn't have any sound for the first hour of this show.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, go back and edit this so that the first hour is gone.
Yeah, Mike, just type us out some subtitles. Troy says you can read lips. So
you should do everything else.
Yeah. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, so what I had asked the internets was, okay, so Black Panther, best serious superhero movie, or best superhero movie, or best movie. Internets, tell me what you think. I'm not saying best movie of all time because there's way too much to deal with, but, you know, best recent movie, maybe. I mean, I saw The Shape of Water, and that was crazy good. See that if you haven't.
I haven't. You know, I'll
tell you. Eventually, get around to it eventually.
Yeah, and in all honesty, you know, when it comes to films,
and you will like it. You like monster movies.
Well, yes, I do.
Yeah.
I have some peculiar a peculiar viewpoint on cinema. You know, I look at the cinema as an art form, and, you know, certainly, you know, The Shape of Water, you know, this, you know, like you say, you know, I like
that is art. That is beautiful.
You know, I have never been a fan of the expression. I've heard the old expression in literature, art imitates life. Like, well, there should be no reason for that. Because you know, if I want to see, you know, life rather than see art imitating life, I can look out my window and see life. I want to see art supersede life, transcend life. Art doesn't have to be bound by the boundaries.
And I feel like both of these that we're talking, Black Panther and Shape of Water, both do both of those things. They do transcend.
And Black Panther is certainly a clear example of what I go to the movies for. Now, I also go for, you know, my Star Wars, my Star Trek, and my Godzilla. Oh, my God, yes, Godzilla. Mazinger, you know, that kind of thing. Now, Mazinger was animated, certainly. But
you know, did I tell you that I thought we were going to see a live-action version?
No.
When you told me, oh, we're gonna go see Mazinger, I was like, hey, this is gonna be fun. I was expecting it to be a live action version, not just a movie cartoon. It was in scope, in scale. Troy and I went and saw Mazinger Infinity.
Mazinger Z Infinity was fantastic,
and it was greater in scope than the old cartoons. But
well, you only ever saw the Transor Z.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
If you had gone beyond that, and if you could have seen any of the original Japanese stuff, or when I say gone beyond, if you could have seen any of the great Mazinger series that succeeded.
Yeah.
You only saw the original. Jesus, I guess there were. What did they say? There were
35,
65 episodes.
65.
Yeah, 56, 65, something.
And I'm sure I didn't see that many of them, but I probably saw 20 of them or more.
Yeah.
When I was a kid. And I don't remember. I want to say that I saw some like sitting in the anime room at Comic-Con back in like the 90s or maybe the 80s. One of these late night things where I'm just like, I'm gonna find a place to kind of snooze out for a bit. Oh, look, this looks fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, what was I getting to? Yeah. So it was a fantastic movie. The point was, this was an amazing movie. Troy gave it, 95%.
I gotta say, if you shrink my scale and make me give it on a scale of 1 star at the lowest, 5 stars at the highest, I really have to give it 5 stars. I mean, I always maintain that any film can be improved, but again, with Black Panther, I'm just reaching for nitpicky things.
Yeah,
I can't find anything major about the film that I felt like they didn't do, that they didn't cover. And sit through the post credits. Sit through their 2 post credit scenes.
Our Comics Online scale, where you get 5 out of 5 stars. We say 5 out of 5 means it's everything to everyone. Sort of. It's the best it possibly could be expected to be. And honestly, what more do you want from this movie? If there's something lacking in this movie that you think should have been there, please tell us in the comments because we want to know.
I gotta say, I enjoyed this movie similarly and yet for different reasons than Wonder Woman. But here's a critical difference.
Ares was terrible.
See, and I didn't find these issues. Not that I thought it was the greatest.
Ares was a weak villain.
Would you prefer Smoky Cloud Parallax?
All right, fine.
Or Jesse Eisenberg Lex Luthor?
Look, it's still the best DC Universe movie. Don't get me wrong. Wonder Woman wins at DC Universe movies, but
and here's the funny thing. I'm going to say funny thing. I don't believe Patty Jenkins had set out to make the best cinematic universe. I feel like she just set out to make the best movie that she could make.
Yeah.
With the character, with the story. She just set out to tackle that and nothing else. And by virtue, she not only achieved what her ambitions must have been, but she also rose to the top. She became the cream that rose to the top of the cinematic universe for DC. Wonder Woman is a standard by which the other films should be judged. And while I watched Suicide Squad, and more than once, Suicide Squad was not as good. It wasn't as executed as well. Dawn of Justice was not executed as well. Justice League was an improvement over those 2 things. It had room to improve further, but certainly it had taken some steps forward. I have my problems with Man of Steel, but again, Wonder Woman, just shot past all of those things.
Definitely.
Black Panther was coming out of a much better constructed cinematic universe in the first place, and had a lot of competition to rise to the top.
Yeah.
But I feel like, it most certainly did that in different ways, and I'll give you some sense of what I'm basing this on. So I usually say, with Doctor Strange, introduced magic and did so very well, and it was the one film to introduce magic as a concept. Guardians of the Galaxy had to introduce the 5 core characters all at once. We didn't get a separate Rocket movie and then a Groot movie and then a Star-Lord movie and then bring them together like we did with the Avengers.
Yeah.
The Avengers took the concept of 5 characters from different places and brought them all together. And it's like, okay, you've seen Thor, you've seen Captain America, you've seen Iron Man, you've seen the Hulk, and now I'm weaving them together. Okay, so the Avengers does that excellently. The Guardians does what it does also excellently. Iron Man introduced us to the whole concept of a larger universe in the first place. Here's Tony Stark, and Tony's done everything that he's done. And at the end, here comes Nick Fury and says, hey, there's more to this than what you know.
Yeah.
Okay, these are the top films. And then on a more secondary level, I've got Ant-Man, which I personally loved. Ant-Man, I liked Paul Rudd's portrayal of the character. I liked, going to Scott as an ex-con trying to make good, Scott as a father trying to do right by his daughter, etc. There were a lot of things. And then Michael Douglas as Hank Pym. So good. I can't wait to see this second Ant-Man movie. I really can't.
Yeah.
Each one of these films, the weak cinematic universe films for me, really, it's Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
I think that's the weakest of the batch. And I realize that Ang Lee's 2003 Hulk is not considered part of the cinematic universe, but it does introduce us to the Hulk, and it does leave off with Bruce Banner in South America, which Incredible Hulk picks up with Bruce Banner in South America. So, yeah, the movie might not be in, but it could be.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and mention it because that is our introduction to the Hulk. And it's not fantastic, but it does, I like this part, it does give us the Hulk leaping, half a mile in a single bound. It does give us the Hulk throwing a tank into the horizon. It does give us the Hulk battling the military to a standstill. It just doesn't give us a villain that we can really get behind. The Brian Banner as Zack's absorbing man. It's like they took 2 decent concept villains and mashed them together into Bruce Banner's abusive father, and did none of those things well.
It needed a rewrite.
But I did like Sam Elliott as Thunderbolt Ross. I liked him.
Yeah, he's very good at it. Yeah.
I liked Jennifer Connelly as Betty Ross.
Yeah.
I actually like Eric Bana as Bruce Banner. Mark Ruffalo is my favorite, but I thought Eric Bana's Bruce Banner was a better Banner, especially as a scientist, than Ed Norton's. If Bruce Banner wasn't a brilliant physicist, if Bruce Banner were anything other than a brilliant physicist, Ed Norton could have captured that. Ed Norton was not a credible scientist, and that's an aspect of Bruce Banner you can't get away from. Yeah, but so those,
I thought each of the choices for Banner were good. I like Ruffalo the best, but I think each of the choices were good choices. It's just too bad that the scripts for those 2 Hulk movies were not that great. I'm really glad that Hulk returned in a co-starring role in Thor Ragnarok.
Yes.
But anyway, but here, did you notice that Mike Smith has been chatting with us here?
Yes, indeed. He says Shape of Water is good, not really an original concept. Well, yeah, I will give it. I would definitely give it some due watching.
Yeah, it's not, but it's the execution. I think is where the art is. It's beautifully executed. And then he says Black Panther is very good, but I can't put it in any best category. I needed a more complex villain, or at least a plan that wasn't kill everyone in my way. But that tends to be, what the cinematic types do.
Well, and kill everyone that was in the way, and I don't know. I want to say in this hyper efficient sort of, you're useful to me until you're not anymore. It's like, yes, you have to kill everyone that's in your way to get to where you're going. And then when he gets to where he's going, when he does defeat the Panther, when he does take the throne, and again, it's something that he feels that he deserves, something that's due to him. Mm-hmm. And he's, for the most part, played by the rules. He's challenged the Panther, and the Panther has met him, and he wins that first fight.
Yeah.
Now, he does not actually kill the Panther, so the challenge isn't over, but, no one knew that in those moments. So, in any event, and then it goes beyond simply that he's going to take the throne and, live like a king and, have, women bring him wine and yada, yada. No, he wants more than that. He's going to, take his view of street justice and blow it up on a much larger scale. He talked about places that he's been and things that he's done, people that he's killed and countries that he's gone to and conflicts that he's been involved in. Ross talked about him a little bit, giving him some background.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, all right.
He's been a soldier and a mercenary for his life.
Soldier first, then mercenary. But I'm like, you came out, from a scene of violence, that's your
as a
childhood.
child. Yeah.
And certainly you lived in a, kind of a sketchy part of the neighborhood anyway, so you probably saw some things that, left some scars on you. And now you come and you find your father's dead. And then you go on, and you're like, soldier, mercenary, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I'm, again, I'd credit Michael B. Jordan, for bringing a lot to the role on that.
He's great, man. I like that guy.
Yeah.
So that's what we think.
Yeah, that's certainly what we think, and definitely be interested in interacting with anybody with
including Mike Smith,
especially Mike Smith. Come on, he's one of our biggest fans.
That's our opinion. Up yours. Not really.
Yeah, that's this guy.
No. But seriously, I'm just joking. But seriously, I do want to know what you have to think about this. If we are wrong. If we are exaggerating, then let us know. I'm really happy with it. I can't wait to see another one. I can't wait to have Panther and his co-stars in Avengers 3.
You know what? I would like to lift this director and his casting director from Black Panther and move both of those people over on a brand new fresh slate and have them make a Shang-Chi Master of Kung Fu.
Ooh.
I think that director could direct it well, and I think that casting director could pick actors and actresses who could be Shang-Chi and Liko Wu and Clive Reston and Blackjack Tar, et cetera,
For some reason, I thought you were going. I don't know why. I thought you were going to say Fourth World.
No. I could talk about Jack Kirby's Fourth World, but not for the.
I don't know why I thought you were going there, but all right.
But yeah, Master of Kung Fu, which is one of my all-time favorite Marvel characters, stories, etc.
We need somebody to save Iron Fist and Netflix because man, that could have been and should have been, way better than Daredevil on a fighting scale, and I realize there's some wacky stuff to do with that character, but they should have done a bit better job. I
kind of feel like
I'm glad I watched it, but
I am too. I kind of feel like I'm just going to talk on Iron Fist just for a hot couple of minutes here, and then we can wrap it up.
Yeah.
So I'll say very, very quickly, the Iron Fist that we were given, the story, the 13 episodes of Iron Fist that we were given, were very much Danny Rand at the beginning of his lifespan. Now, for those of you who are more familiar with the Brubaker, Matt Fraction, Immortal Iron Fist, you're probably very disappointed. Some of you might not have read Marvel Premiere. So I would say, hey, go back to 1975 and read Marvel Premiere and take a look at Iron Fist at the beginning of being Iron Fist. You're looking at Iron Fist after he's had 30 years to evolve as a character and gotten the succession of talent. You've gone through the Claremont Byrne era and into the Power Man Iron Fist era and beyond. But let's go back to the very beginning here. What is Danny Rand? He's a boy raised in Kunlun, and so he is now a young man who is not steeped in the world that he has not been part of for 15 years. So he's much like Oliver Queen. He's come home. Unlike Oliver Queen, no one recognizes him. No one wants to admit that he is who he is. No one believes his story. where Oliver comes back to his mother and his sister and his old life and his fortune and his friends and his party lifestyle. And, Oliver, you got my daughter killed and I hate you. Yeah, well, but the nightlife really likes me. My mom still loves me. And, oh, look, we've still got Dad's fortune. Danny does not come back to that life. He has nothing. No one recognizes him. No one blames him for anything, like Oliver, but he has nothing. So he's got to put that all together. He doesn't know who to trust. He doesn't have anyone outside of Jerry Hogarth that he can trust. And it takes him a minute to break through to her. Oh, my God, I love Carrie-Anne Moss.
Isn't she great?
She is. And certainly when I think that Jerry Hogarth was originally a male character.
Oh, yeah,
but
that's true.
She's really, she's wrapped herself into that character. She's done so well. In any event, in terms of fight choreography, I would like more martial arts stuff from Iron Fist as someone who enjoys Mortal Kombat, as someone who enjoys Bruce Lee movies, Jackie Chan movies, Chuck Norris movies, Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, etc., etc.
It was not consistent.
No, it was very uneven. Trying to give the character a fighting style that is visually distinct from, say, the fighters that were in The Hand in Daredevil, from Daredevil himself. I could go on at length, but I won't. The fact is,
any of the other characters within the Marvel universe.
Yeah, it's like it's part karate, kung fu, it's part tai chi. It's that kind of smooth moving meditation. It's like we're trying to blend all of these elements to show this ethereal, otherworldly martial art, which is Kunlun.
Yeah, which is hard to do. I understand, but they failed so hard in keeping it consistent. Like, you would have some low-level nobody get in some good blows where they should have gotten no good blows in, and yet he's able to go against Bride of Nine Spiders, one of the other Immortal Masters, and just mop the what?
Well, yeah, I don't think he mopped the floor with her. If I remember correctly, didn't he get poisoned in that fight?
Whatever. But he was able to surpass her.
Right.
He was able to surpass so many people where it should have been just stalemate the whole time. With any of the other masters. I mean, that's what I feel like it should have been.
Well, and again, when we get to that point where, it's like you've leapfrogged into the Fraction Brubaker, the Immortal Iron Fist, the Immortal Cities.
If you're going to have those characters, then yes, we must.
Yeah. Now, what I'm saying is, at this point, let's take all of the characters as they exist now, and now let's dial them all back to Marvel Premiere era. So not only is Danny...
But what do we know about them then?
We don't, and we're going to learn as we go. So if Danny has to be X number of years younger, all of these other characters will be X number of years younger as well. If Danny's level of wherewithal is dialed back, and we dial theirs back too. And any martial arts expert will tell you, in context of a street fight, even an untrained fighter can hit an expert. I mean, now, can you win that fight? That's arguable, but... How many martial art experts have ever been laid low, even if only for a moment, by some undisciplined street brawler who got in a lucky low blow or some other such? It happens. It does legitimately happen in actual fights.
I feel like that. Somebody like the Immortal Iron Fist. Whether he's not as advanced as he would eventually be in the current Marvel comics, but somebody who has developed their abilities to the degree where they can best the dragon and become the Iron Fist, they have to be super badass, just way beyond any sort of just random thug or low level martial artist.
Let's take I'm going to move us to a middle period here. Let's look at Power Man Iron Fist, just at the beginning of that. Okay. So, Power Man, Luke Cage, who does not have that degree of fight discipline, Luke held his own with Danny. Yeah. Partly because he's invulnerable, partly because he's superhumanly strong. But let's explore the fact that he was able to hit Danny. It doesn't matter how strong he is, it's how skilled he is.
Yeah.
He hit Danny. If he didn't have super strength, he might not have done a lot of damage, but he hit him.
Yeah.
That's the point. Now add in the super strength and the steel hard skin, and now the blow, has consequence. But what I'm saying is the untrained street brawler that is Luke Cage was able to hit the immortal son of Kunlun.
I have to say that it might have been one of those things where Danny thought it wouldn't be of consequence to get hit by this guy.
Oh, Danny had no reason to not believe. He already saw Luke bring down Misty Knight. He already saw that, and he knows that Misty has a bionic arm.
Okay. Okay. Which I can't wait for Misty to have a bionic arm in Defenders or Daredevil or wherever she appears next. I'm looking forward to that for sure.
And Flashback fans, those of you who come into the Flashback comic store, if you've checked out our Facebook page.
Mike Smith says, I can't wait for more Jessica Jones. It's like another couple of weeks, right, Mike?
Something. So I've put up some posts on the Facebook page giving you some other places to find Misty Knight. Not only do you see Misty Knight in Iron Fist, not only do you see her in Power Man Iron Fist, but she's also in the Heroes for Hire series. Two of them, actually, if I remember correctly. And she also is in Fearless Defenders. I still have a bunch of those if you need to fill in your gaps. I think you have some holes.
Listen, Cullen Bunn. I bought them when they came out, so I don't know what he's talking about. I mean, I might not be reading that Dark Arc nonsense, but I got...
Hey, that Dark Arc is an excellent comic series. We're going to talk about that sometime.
Oh.
It's great.
I read the first one, and I'm like,
and you need
so stupid.
And you need to go past the first issue, but I thought first issue was excellent. And thank you, incidentally, to Phil Hester for autographing the variant cover that he did for me.
Oh, I didn't realize that there's a Phil Hester variant. That's cool.
Yeah, he was such a nice guy. He was just signing stuff and doing sketches, and super nice guy. Phil Hester, everybody, meet him at a comic convention and buy that man a sandwich or something. He's such a nice guy.
Yeah, well, meet Colin Bunn as well. He's a good guy. I've had the honor of spending a few hours with that guy over the course of
Kevin is supposed to introduce me to Colin Bunn and then take both of us out for drinks.
That sounds good. We'll get you a margarita.
Yeah, Colin Bunn and I are just going to sit there. We're going to do tequila shots and talk all night. And Kevin's going to buy all the rounds.
Whatever. I'll make them for you right here. Look, I got the stuff right.
You're going to make tequila?
No, I got tequila. I got like at least 3 tequilas here.
Oh, because I thought I was going to get some homemade tequila.
That'd be weird. I don't have the ability to do that.
I believe in you.
Oh, thanks. I mean, I suppose I have the ability if I were to purchase the equipment for distilling and also the raw materials, the agave stuff, and that seems like more trouble than it's worth. So probably not going to do that. It sounds like it'd be fun though if you give me a still. Troy, if you just go and give me like a Hawkeye Pierce still from from MASH,
I don't know who Hawkeye Pierce is.
Well, that's for Mike. Mike doesn't remember because it's late and it's past his bedtime, but he's listening to us anyway.
Yeah, really.
Thanks, Mike.
So
yeah.
So are we calling that a wrap?
Yeah, we did another hour, even after our first hour.
Yeah. Well, for those who sat through and couldn't get any sound out of us, and now we know what to do, we fixed the problem.
I'll chop off the first hour.
Yeah, he's going to chop off the first hour. So if you sat through all of this was your payoff.
I'm not going to do it right now, but I'll do it.
No, right now.
Wait, you can't. You have to wait for it to completely upload. It takes a while. Anyway, so
if we were in Wakanda, this would have already happened.
It would be so fast. So, by the way, this weekend we're going to do more shows. I'm going to record a classic. I might do it this way too, but I'm going to record also audio separately on its own thing. I'm going to and Troy, you're invited to join us. I'm going to record at least 2 shows, maybe more than that. With Dune McKay. That is to say, Zachary Ryan, Dune Murderous McKay. He's got 5 names. And he's flying out here on Thursday, so we will do touristy things a bit, but we will be we're recording Comics Online podcast. We will be recording Dune Reads Goosebumps. There'll be a new Dune Reads Goosebumps recorded right here in this room, and we might, if we're lucky, we'll have Troy David Phillips as well.
It's funny. People come into the store and they ask me to read comics.
To them? Oh.
Yeah, like on the show, like take a comic and actually do a reading. Like, are you serious?
That could be a thing. That could be a thing. Like, all right, if you haven't already, check it. Go on the internet, so whether it's Facebook or it's not on YouTube at all, but go on iTunes or whatever, and get the audio podcast Dune Reads Goosebumps. And if you remember, for the first 6 or 7 years of Comics Online podcast, Dune was my co-host, right? And then he very soon after he began, he split off and did his own podcast as well, which is Dune Reads Goosebumps. And when I say Goosebumps, I mean that Scholastic series, the
R.L. Stine.
R.L. Stine. And so he got an actual book sometimes it was a PDF, whatever. But he would go and read a book, but he would start reading it and he would throw in little jokes, just every couple of sentences, little jokes, and some of it was terribly racist and sexist and just generally rude in all the ways, and so it's not for children. It's just taking a children's book and making it not for children. And it is hilarious. Dude is fucking funny, and I hope you check it out. If you would be interested in that sort of thing, I would be willing to do that with a Troy David. He would not be willing to make jokes. He would just read them straight. He would be like, "Here's New Mutants number 8." I say New Mutants number 8 because once that came. I used to be a subscriber where individual issues would come wrapped in brown paper and be mailed to you, and it came to my grandmother's house, and I was so excited about it, and I was like, "Grandma, just read it to me," and so she read me that comic over the phone, and I'm like, "Wait, who says that?" "Oh, it's this." She would describe Magma, and she's all she's kind of striped with red and yellow.
Yeah, it's funny because New Mutants number 8 was the first New Mutants I bought off the shelf.
Really?
I'd heard of the characters and hadn't read anything, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to check this out. I'm going to give it a shot. And so I did give it a shot.
I don't remember if it was really number 8. Was that the one where they were in South America?
That's where they get together with Roberto's mother. They just rescued her from that big guy Axe in issue number 7.
Yeah.
I've since gone back and collected them all. And then they go to South America, and they get separated, and they find themselves in Nova Roma.
Nova Roma, yeah, there was that issue.
And
I'm glad that I remembered that.
So another hidden civilization in South America, somewhere in the world, is yet another hidden civilization. The thing that I remember about Nova Roma was, in story, it got retroactively debunked. That it wasn't actually ever Nova Roma, that it was empath, I believe, mind controlling these people
into thinking that was the case.
Yeah.
Weird.
So that they could.
I didn't remember that.
Well, the problem with the in-story explanation of Nova Roma was how, at no point in time in the development of this Roman culture, did they ever advance beyond this one level. So they have been trapped here for how long, and they haven't done any of the advancement development that the Romans themselves did.
And Romans were pretty advanced at the time, and you would think they would continue to advance at a fast rate.
Right. Unless they were intentionally holding themselves back. They clearly had some understanding of the outside world, some understanding of the outside world.
Yeah.
But, and they were obviously able to manufacture their clothing, their metal weaponry, et cetera, and yet no one discovered them. It stopped making sense at a certain point, and so I can't say that we executed its explanation perfectly, but something needed to happen.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
So yes, I would definitely go and read some comics and throw some nonsense in there. I'm not sure how that would go exactly because I don't know. I'm going to go over that with Dune this weekend. Maybe that'll be a thing.
I would be down for reading New Mutants #8.
To me.
Yeah,
that'd be sweet, Troy.
I would do that.
Oh, and another podcast that will eventually come. I have old children's stories as read by my grandmother in the 70s on audio cassette, and I'm going to digitize those and make those into a podcast that will happen eventually. But anyway, yeah, so look forward to Dune McKay this weekend, and we will do it. We will do some live version, and we will do some recorded version for the iTunes feed. So for Troy and everybody at Comics Online, and for everything geek pop culture, I'm Kevin Gaussoin, and this is Comics Online.
Team Cap
at my house.
Wakanda forever.
Wakanda forever. This time I'm going to actually hit stop correctly. Bitches!